我作为一个曾经的中国人，拿过中国护照的一个。
As someone who was once Chinese and held a Chinese passport, the only feeling I have is how much I was discriminated against. It's humiliating. As a single woman from communist China holding its passport, wherever you go, people look at you through tinted glasses. When applying for visas to developed countries, they'll dig into your background, question your family for generations as if you're a criminal. It's so insulting. You feel utterly disrespected. Holding that liver red passport, you automatically face discrimination everywhere. You're labeled as uncultured, without grace, nobody likes you, nobody welcomes you. A country's passport reflects its diplomatic power and how its people are received abroad. If your passport only grants a few visa-free countries, carrying it abroad feels like a disgrace. That can only mean one thing: your country's diplomacy has failed and its people are unwelcomed everywhere. And that's why no one wants to give you visa exemptions. It's that simple. And it's harsh. In contrast, Taiwan's passport grants visa-free access to 142 countries, including the United States, all developed countries. That's truly the kind of trip you can take at a moment's notice. Many Chinese people say the Chinese passport ranks among the least useful in the world. A country's global standing is often reflected in the strength of its passport. Yet Chinese travelers overseas often face intense scrutiny as if they were suspected criminals. Some are asked for bribes by immigration officers, denied visas without explanation, or even detained as alleged illegal immigrants. Experiences of discrimination, humiliation, and ridicule have left many feeling stripped of dignity and self-respect. Since the visa exemption between China and Singapore took effect, many Chinese tourists have chosen to visit Singapore. One Chinese TikTok user posted a video expressing anger after being denied entry despite the visa-free policy.
给我造成了1万多的经济损失，真的很离谱。
I was denied entry to Singapore and locked in a holding room, causing me over 10,000 yuan in financial losses. I've traveled solo to dozens of countries around the world, including European, Schengen nations where visas are tough to get, but I've never been rejected for no reason. I never imagined I'd be treated like this in our neighboring country, Singapore, a country that offers visa-free entry for Chinese citizens. To be so mistreated, it's really frustrating. A month ago, I was invited by a hotel in Singapore to promote their property. They were offering me 4,000 yuan, but after being denied entry, I ended up losing over 10,000 yuan. I flew from Europe to Singapore, spending nearly 5,000 yuan on connecting flights. I didn't get the 4,000 yuan I was supposed to earn, and I had to buy a last-minute flight home for another 2,000 yuan. Why did Singapore refuse me entry? When I saw the entry denial, it said I didn't have a valid visa and I was stunned. Singapore is a visa-free country for us. Why would they require a visa? Why was I rejected for not having a valid one? It makes no sense at all. Visa exemption agreements are in essence a mechanism of trust between nations, a recognition of a country's citizens, economy, and law-abiding reputation. For avid travelers, visa-free access means no lengthy paperwork, no extra fees, and the freedom to travel spontaneously. But the reality is often awkward, even in countries with visa-free arrangements. Chinese passport holders can still be denied entry, interrogated, or even deported. According to the Yangcheng Evening News, on August 16, a 38-year-old Chinese man named Zhen was stopped by immigration officer at Singapore's Changi Airport Terminal 4 and handed an entry ban notice. He was taken to a holding room for questioning while awaiting deportation. However, Zhang refused to cooperate. Around 11 a.m., 4 officers attempted to escort him onto a flight in a wheelchair, but he shouted continuously for more than 2 minutes. The situation escalated when he broke free and spat at one of the officers. He was later charged with assaulting a public servant and disturbing public order. In Singapore's state courts, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 8 weeks in prison. This kind of nominal visa-free access stands in sharp contrast to official Chinese propaganda. On social media, some people mocked the situation, saying you should show them your liver red passport. They must not know you're Chinese. If they did, they'd treat you with the utmost respect and carry you through customs. On October 8th, 2025, a user named Xiao Yi shared in a video.
就说泰国的口岸，它
I really don't get it. I'm here at the Thai border, and they won't let me in. When I asked why, they said there's no reason. They just don't want me in. I asked, aren't you a visa-free country? So, does visa-free mean you can decide who to let in and who not to, based on your mood? Is that how your laws work? They didn't answer me and instead told me to go back to Laos. Now I'm stuck at the Laos border, and Thailand won't let me in either. I'm stuck between two countries. What should I do in this situation?
Chinese state media often touts the strong value of the Chinese passport, but ordinary citizens' experiences tell a different story. Lengthy inspections, demands for extra fees, and targeted questioning at border checkpoints reveal the awkward reality of China's passport in the global system. It neither grants true freedom of movement nor reflects genuine international trust. A recent video from a user in Suzhou shared his experience.
你假了个无美金、十美金，好了，他给你放行。你只要不假。
At Cairo airport, there are officials here asking Chinese people for money, giving them a hard time. If you give them a $5 or $10 tip, they let you through. If you don't, they make things difficult. If customs treated everyone the same and charged a fee to all, I wouldn't mind. But I noticed only Chinese people were held back. That's not right, so I filmed it. Foreign travelers were all allowed to pass, but I was singled out for no reason, and I didn't do anything wrong.
In recent years, Chinese authorities have tightened exit controls, making it increasingly difficult to obtain or use a passport. Applicants face extensive paperwork, and even those with valid passports can be turned back at customs. Many Chinese travelers have been stopped and told to return home. On September 29, one person shared a video saying that a woman who had been accepted to Cambridge University with tuition paid and a plane ticket booked was barred from leaving China just before boarding. Cambridge usually advises international students to arrive before the end of September. A user hoping to study in Malaysia recently asked in a video,
Does
anyone from Xinjiang know how you managed to get a passport? I was told I needed an acceptance letter from a school before I could get a passport, which shocked me. When applying to study abroad, you need a passport. Without one, how can you even get an acceptance letter? I thought getting a passport was a basic right for every Chinese citizen, like getting an ID card. Honestly, I just don't understand why they have to make it so difficult for people.
This is outrageous. They're not even letting elderly people apply for passports now. In many parts of China, they've been limiting passport applications in recent years. That's widely known. But what's even more ridiculous is that they won't allow a passport renewal. My hometown is in Hunan, and I wanted my parents to come here to spend the new year with me. I asked them to send their passports so I could book their flights in advance. But when they sent them over, I realized that passports were valid until July 2026. To make the whole trip more secure, I suggested they get new passports. So yesterday, they went to the government office to get them renewed, but they were refused. They were asked a bunch of questions, and I was told I need to provide proof of my job here, my visa, and other documents to prove the authenticity of the request before they'd issue new passports. Isn't that absurd? Since July this year, the restrictions on leaving the country have become stricter. From what I've heard, 5 or 6 people flying from China to Armenia were stopped from leaving. Why? After the pandemic restrictions were lifted, too many people started traveling abroad. People and assets were being lost, which is why getting a passport now is more difficult than ever. In some areas, even if you have work documentations or proper company papers, they still won't issue a passport for you.
They're not letting people apply for passports anymore. In many places across China, passport applications are being restricted, and the process has become more complicated, with many more questions being asked. It's likely because in the past couple of years, so many people have been leaving the country, and there's been a massive outflow of both people and assets. According to data from 2024, around 20,000 to 30,000 people are entering Southeast Asia every day, either for tourism or to explore business opportunities. In Laos, for example, from January to June 2024, the number of people entering for tourism and business increased by 900% to 1,400%. From July to October last year, it grew by over 600%, reaching more than 200,000 visits. Right now, passport applications are being restricted in many parts of China. We've also had many people reach out, saying they've never traveled abroad but tried to go to Laos or Southeast Asia with their blank passports, only to be turned away.
The debate over the Chinese passport never seems to end. One viral post comparing the US and Chinese passport reignited public discussion. The US passport says, wherever you may be, the United States government will stand behind you. The Chinese passport says, please strictly observe local laws and respect local customs, although Chinese state media called it false information. Many online still voice their frustration and disbelief. At the same time, China's enforcement of exit restrictions has intensified. A recent case involving a dual national being stopped at the border caused a stir among Chinese-speaking communities overseas. On September 29, a Chinese man named Sam, who had lived in Melbourne for many years, was stopped at Hangzhou Airport while trying to fly back to Australia. Border officers informed him that the system flagged him for a dual nationality and that he could not proceed. Sam said, "I knew something was wrong the moment they called my name." Sam had become an Australian citizen 14 years earlier, which should have automatically voided his Chinese household registration, but he had taken a chance assuming the system would not detect it. That moment proved him wrong. While waiting in line, he saw another ethnic Chinese traveler stopped and told to cancel his household registration. When it was Sam's turn, discussions with officers went nowhere. He was told he must complete the cancellation before leaving China. To make matters worse, it was during China's National Day holiday when police offices were closed. He had to wait until the holidays ended, delaying his trip and facing fines for overstaying. The penalty was 500 yuan per day. 7 days meant a total loss of 4,000 yuan. Sam's experience is not unique. Recently, stories of travelers blocked for dual nationality have become more frequent. Under Chinese nationality law, the country does not recognize dual citizenship. Any Chinese citizens who voluntarily acquires a foreign nationality automatically loses Chinese citizenship. In theory, since Sam became an Australian citizen, he should have lost both his Chinese nationality and household registration. So why do many overseas Chinese keep their household registration for years without cancelling it? Sam's reason is fairly typical, a mix of convenience and sentiment. Many people, like Sam, keep their national ID cards because they make daily life in China easier. Having one document on hand simplifies everything from buying train tickets to handling official procedures. Cancelling household registration is more than an administrative process. For many, it feels like cutting ties with their homeland. Some people online have advised Chinese citizens planning to acquire another nationality to carefully weigh whether their Chinese passport, household registration, ID cards are more important than the citizenship of another country. If not, they say there is no need to retain Chinese nationality. As identity checks becomes increasingly strict, certain groups are likely to face closer scrutiny. Civil servants, executives at state-owned enterprises, and those working in sensitive government positions are now subject to stricter political vetting. According to overseas media reports on September 30th, officials in China's state-owned banking systems are facing a new wave of travel restrictions. Several sources reveal that starting October 1st, 2025, officials at the division level and above can apply to travel overseas only once a year. Even business trips require multiple layers of approvals. Though the regulation has not been formally announced, it is reportedly already in effect within this financial sector. A mid-level financial official interviewed about the new rule said with resignation, "In the past, approval was usually granted if the reason was reasonable. Now the rule is rigid. If you apply more than once, it's automatically rejected." A retired official added, "Even for business trips, we have to go through a full approval process. Honestly, it's extremely tedious." Scholars believe the move reflects Beijing's focus on risk prevention and stability. The goal is to prevent capital flight and reinforce anti-corruption measures, but it also points to rising fiscal and foreign exchange pressures. Analysts see it not as an isolated policy, but as part of a broader tightening effort, and because the financial sector is highly sensitive, it is being targeted first. For those affected, the new rule has brought mostly frustration. A manager at an agriculture bank of China's Nanjing branch said only one overseas application a year means many opportunities are lost. It affects both personal and family life. Honestly, I feel like I have to wait until retirement before I can really travel again. A supervisor at the Bank of Communications Beijing branch named Wang faces a similar problem. His child is studying in the UK, but since he already traveled overseas once during the Lunar New Year holiday, his summer travel application was denied. Wang said with a weary smile, "My children are overseas, but I can only travel once a year. Even visiting family has become difficult." The management says it's for discipline and the greater good, but the impact on families like mine is huge. Some senior banking executives also revealed that the new rule requires branches to tighten controls and once again emphasize that all passports must be stored centrally. Personal possession of passport is strictly prohibited. In fact, as early as 2 years ago, Chinese authorities had already begun implementing a system requiring the collection of passports from all government and administrative personnel at or above the selection level. The restrictions mainly target two groups. The first includes those with access to power or financial resources, such as senior banking executives, to prevent the misuse or transfer of funds abroad. The second group consists of high-level technical professionals who possess sensitive information and may face personal or external risk if they travel overseas. Shanghai-based lawyer Zhu Fang said she has heard that civil servants must obtain approval from their work units before retrieving their passports. She questioned the legality of this policy, saying a passport is a travel document granted by the state, not issued by one's employer. It is neither legal nor reasonable for a work unit to restrict a citizen's right to leave the country. In an authoritarian system, returning a passport to an employee has become a form of reward, a privilege given in exchange for loyalty. But imposing such limit on those outside the system infringes on basic human rights.